Yeah, we're really honored to be here. Really grateful that we were invited because this is a topic that is really close to our hearts. So, we probably look really similar, right?
A little bit.
Can we ask, does anybody have a twin out there, or are they a twin?
Or they have twins in their lives.
I see
Any
one.
kind, uncles, aunts, children.
There's a couple out there.
There are
Oh, look.
actually quite a few.
Yeah. How about any coaches out there?
Okay, yes, I'm hoping to see a few more hands.
Yes. How about facilitators? Yeah, a few more facilitators. Good. When I first arrived in Germany, I live in Munich, by the way.
And I live in Berlin.
Nobody knew what that word meant. You're a moderator. No, I'm a facilitator. I'm glad that's catching up. Any foreigners out there, non-Polish people?
Probably fewer hands, but still quite a few.
Yeah. All right, and this last one, change agents.
Oh.
Any change agents out there? Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm skipping ahead. I'm so excited. Okay, women. Yes. Women in tech.
Women in tech.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, even more hands. Okay, and then just keep your hand up because you know what the next one is.
Change agent.
Yeah.
This is definitely what we consider ourselves.
And we have a lot of work to do because the world is changing a lot.
And quite recently, it was a very personal change for the two of us. Getting laid off. It's, I'm sure, also for maybe yourself directly impacted or someone you know. But it could also be a change that was annoying or soon to be annoying. Time change. It's global, except for maybe one country.
I think this is the one we like, though, right? Because we get to sleep in.
Oh, yeah. So maybe this one isn't so annoying.
Fall back.
It can also be global, a change that impacts everyone everywhere. And for us, and maybe for all of you, it could be a future change that impacts everyone.
In any case, we all feel it. Change is happening faster, and it feels like it's kind of happening all the time.
In fact, since 1980, the rate of change has only accelerated. We used to get a time in between these big changes, a time to pause and actually integrate those changes, figure out how they work in our lives, figure out strategies and tools, and live into them. But since the 80s, as you can see on this chart, this pace of change has only accelerated, and it has become constant and rapid. It's not slowing down.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling that change fatigue. Interestingly enough, though, already in 2014, Fast Company, which is a magazine some of you may know, it's pretty well regarded in business and a bit in tech, they coined a phrase called Generation Flux to describe a group of people, didn't matter their ages, who embraced change, who had a mindset around seeing change as an opportunity.
So, interestingly enough, in 2022, Flux was not on our minds, but change hit us both getting laid off within about 2 months of each other, I think. And with all of that extra time, for me, it was actually the third layoff in 5 years. So I felt like I know what's coming. I know what I need to do. I have good strategies. And I feel pretty resilient in this. But that also gave me quite a bit of time to do more things for myself, go into learning, update some certifications. And in that discovery period I gave myself, I discovered this book called Flux. And I was kind of like, what's the word I want to use? Gobsmacked. Just blown away by the fact that this book seemed to have codified our experience as change agents, the things that we had learned, the things that we had incorporated, the things that we just naturally used, and created a framework. There were superpowers, there are superpowers, and, well, so maybe you're curious, what's flux? So flux is a noun and a verb, and the people who came to our workshop yesterday also got to experience the full framework of flux. But it is continuous change, and it also refers to our ability to learn and become fluid. And so this is April Rini model of a flux mindset. And this is the mindset, the next mindset, that will take us into this world of rapid, constant change. Not just to survive it, but to thrive in it. So, even though we're twins, of course what we discovered is that when we were going through this change, it was very individual, it was very personal, and it was very internal. We couldn't always see what the other one was going through. Maybe this is familiar. We also saw that change doesn't have to be just chaotic, but actually there are lots of opportunities in change. So what made sense for us is we just looked out the window and said, hey, change is a lot like the weather. We can't always choose it or change it. We can't control it, but we can change our relationship, how we feel about it. Instead of always complaining about the weather, we can say, oh, look, great, it's raining outside. I can stay inside and read a book. And, sorry, I'm so excited. So, again, whether it's unexpected, see what I did there? If it's unexpected or it's a choice, we have tools to deal with things like the weather, right? If it's sunny, we put on our sunglasses. If it's cold, we put on our hat and scarves, like it's becoming that time of year. And if we are wondering, we can get on our phone and say, what's the next 3 days like? Because we have satellites. So we've built tools to help us deal with this unexpected change that we can't control. So this is what we want to do with you today, is to explore, consider, and share with you this new mindset that really will help us, hopefully, see change in a new way and reshape the relationship you have with change. So, the way we go through the world, so April Rini talked about a script, and we found that this really resonated. A script is basically this cultural programming we have about how we believe we need to operate in the world, and how do you approach things, how do you make decisions, and also it's what is important, what do you value. And this script is something that we write throughout our lives, but it's very unconscious. And therefore, things that are unconscious are hard to change. And when we're faced with so much personal change, there's something that we need to do. Rewrite it. So our old scripts, whether we're conscious of it or not, are keeping us stuck. And we need to learn new capabilities. And these new capabilities can help us adapt and shift how we're working. So this is what we call our new script. We need to consciously rewrite it. When we can do that and learn these capabilities in the form of perhaps these superpowers in Flux, the Flux mindset is what can help us, and what we've actually experienced the last 2 years, help us give the change really look at it as an opportunity, and any kind of change, whether we're choosing it or we're not. So what can we do? Well, rewrite it.
And not that the old script is bad,
Great.
and the new script is good, but in fact, it's learning to accept that change is just part of something that we are going to be living with.
And that change, and maybe we'll say this a couple of times so that it sinks in, this part of our lives and in where we are in this day and age, our modern world, change absolutely can be an opportunity. And we don't have to look at it as good or bad, but really as the next adventure. So we're agile. Most of us are no strangers to actually saying, oh yeah, change is a good thing. We got to adapt. And we have these amazing principles that we use in our teams and to develop our products. So Sylvia and I thought, it makes sense to use those agile principles for our own personal development. So that is the thing we're actually going to focus on today, is really looking at our resiliency and our building a portfolio career. So yesterday in the workshop, the old mindset, the old script is called climb the ladder. So that's where we started out, right? Is learning how to climb the career ladder, and also a career path. But we're going to ask you to explore and experiment and play with this idea of creating a portfolio career. So really that we can look at thriving in this world, not just surviving. So it's more than just getting a job. It's about thinking of your career as an adventure and as a way to explore your passions. You don't have to stick to a role or a job title to build a really interesting life and to have a successful career. Sylvia, you have a really good example. Well, my career. So I don't know how many of you can say that you've probably had at least 5 careers. Has anyone had?
At
Maybe
least
they
5?
can count? Okay, at least 5, right. So I started my career journey in public relations, knowing pretty clearly that I probably wasn't going to stick with it. But that led me to going into multimedia and learning director, and then going into marketing, and then finding myself as a photographer. And then my title was associate designer. And then I became a project management consultant. And from there, I became a business owner. I created my own business around e-commerce websites. But then I found myself as a marketing manager, and then a senior marketing manager. And then I shifted gears again and became an organizational development manager, leadership development, change management. Oh my gosh, what am I forgetting? Probably a few others in there.
Agile coach?
Oh yeah, I was an Agile coach once as well.
Yes.
Liberating structures, community organizer. And now, most recently, adaptability consultant. So there's a thread in there, but most of that is really about my passions and the things that I'm following because I recognize there's value in me doing that. It aligns with my values. I'm interested in that. And somebody needs those skills.
So that's another thing that we're really good in the Agile space, is reflecting on, is what I am doing right now bringing value? So that's another thing we want you to consider. Look at those skills that you have and the current role and think, could I use these skills in another context? Or even flip that and say, Is there another context that needs these skills? Again, you have another good example.
So when I worked at Microsoft and I was in an HR organization after coming from the technical part of the organization, my senior HR manager had spent his career climbing the HR ladder, working in the people space. It was still in the tech company, but his role and responsibility was really HR, human resources. A couple years after I left Microsoft, he moved over to Australia, where his family was from. And as he kept going into higher levels of roles, he started to recognize, and we had lots of conversations about this, that his values no longer aligned to where he really felt he could deliver the most value. And when he saw what I was doing as an Agile coach, he recognized that might be my next career. So he went and he became an Agile coach because he really wanted to take all of his people skills and bring them deeper and more practically into the organization that he was in.
Again, great example of how we in this Agile space can always take a moment to look and reflect at, is what I'm doing adding value, and am I doing it in the right place?
And if we think about maybe if you've had a recent career shift, I'm curious, maybe raise of hands, career shift in the last 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 6 months. Okay, so quite a bit of shifting. Maybe even 10 years ago, right? What did that unlock for you? What did that open up for you? What door did it open?
So this is why I'm really glad Aneshka asked you to sit next to someone, because we want you to think about it and consider that pivot that you had in your career. What did it open up? What did it show you about yourself? What new opportunities did it bring you? And maybe share that with someone sitting next to you or behind you if you're alone and you're...
Yeah, so take a minute, find a partner, find somebody, and share either if you haven't had a shift, what you might think of doing. What do you think that would open up for you? So go ahead, find a partner. We're going to give you a minute.
We love how this technique works in an Agile space. It's like magic. So you're wondering, okay, how do we create this flux mindset? How do we practice this? And how do we build this resilient portfolio career? Of course, there are as many ways as there are people, because we mentioned it's individual. But what Sylvia and I have found is we like to call them the 3 C's. Consider, cross-pollinate, and curate. So yeah, what are those things? So first, consider, this is what Agilists are often very good at, asking other people to do, reflect. Think about all of those, not just the jobs that you've had, but maybe the hobbies that you enjoy, the passions that you have. Consider volunteer work that you've done, things you didn't get paid for. And look at the skills and the things that you gained from doing all of that. That's part of your portfolio already, even if it doesn't have a job title on it. Also, maybe even think about the things that you didn't like or that were hard. Maybe there's a challenge in there that you want to explore further. So after you get everything out in front of you and you look at your portfolio, the beginning of your portfolio, you might start to see that you've already been cross-pollinating. So you've been bringing
an experience, a skill, some knowledge, and applying it or using it or even just experimenting in a new domain. So we're really good at that in the Agile space, iterating on something when it doesn't work or even making it better when it does, and also experimenting, trying something out. So you can also just cross-pollinate in your very own career. And I've certainly done that. This is part of building those flux muscles by working and walking into change. So you don't need to stay in your own lane. You can fly around and explore and still bring those experiences and those skills with you, even if it's a completely new context. And that's what I love about cross-pollination. You're not only gaining new perspective, but you're also giving it. So this last one, curate. Well, when you get to our age, you've got a lot of stuff. And curating means you start to go through and you choose what skill, what experience is useful, adds value in the new context that I want to be in or that I feel myself drawn to. Curating means that you get to create a career that's evergreen and that has longevity and meaning because you are intentionally deciding what you're going to bring to the job. You are deciding what it is that you want to do. So you have to be ready to unlearn or forget some things and then have a beginner's mind. Shuhari. It applies here too. So when you think about, like, you've just been introduced to this new term, this new framework, potentially, these new capabilities that we're calling superpowers. So we wanted to give you a bunch of resources. The Flux book by April Rini. She also has a website. She has the TED Talk where she really goes deep into sort of how she curated it, cultivated it, and lived it. And we're also creating an online Flux community because we know community is where our power is as well. I also have recently discovered an assessment that helps me understand, and as I'm coaching others, help them understand, how do you know how adaptable you already are? So that's something else that you can explore. But really, the key thing is pick one thing that you want to do and practice that intentionally. This is something that we had our workshoppers yesterday do. Is when they looked at and explored all of the superpowers. They picked one small thing that they could even practice here at the conference. Because this practice will actually lead us into shifting our mindset. That unconscious becomes conscious. Writing our new script, intentionally day by day, trying something, opening up our own mind, and building our own resilience, crafting those strategies and creating that toolbox so that your future career is the one that you absolutely want to make it, not dependent on your employer or some big global thing. So maybe consider what one small step you want to take today, and dive in. Because the most important thing, the wonderful thing we have when we come to conferences, and especially in agility, is we have to remember we're not doing this alone. That's true. We're doing it together. Can hold each other accountable. Dziękuję.
It's me again.
Do you want
Second
to
time is easier.
We share.
This
is something
We're
we
good at
also
sharing.
usually do. High five.
So I'm checking the...
Super curious what kind of questions came up.
Well, I have loads of those. And since they are like coming here, I will ask my questions that I have. So it's about the change. And especially when you are being let off from the company. Like you most of the times are surprised by a change. So if it was to happen to me, what should I do? Like the moment I leave the meeting, what are the tools you are using, for example, to help me cope with the change?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah. The first one, and I know this in my heart, it's easy to say, it's not so easy to do, is to accept. Okay, so maybe this is no longer the right soil for me to grow in, or these people don't appreciate me, or this is not where I can learn and grow. Okay, I got the message. It's time for me to move on.
And for me, again, I mentioned that in the last 5 years, I had been laid off 3 times. So twice I saw it coming. And I would say it's probably because I have experience and understanding and being really clear what's happening in a company and noticing based on my leader's words, based on the company spreadsheet. Of course, I hoped it wouldn't have happened. Each time it did happen, I was a leader in a leadership position, and my first concern was my team, because I also recognized valuable skill, and these were mostly Agile coaches, valuable skills can be used anywhere in an organization, and I felt it was always a shame that the company didn't recognize that. But, as Susanne mentioned, accepting it and saying, that's their loss, and moving on is a good place to start. But also, as scary and as vulnerable as this might make you, ask your community for help. Because we are each connected in different ways, in different companies, to different networks, and reaching out to that network and letting them know what's happening with you. Trust me, people want to help. They want to encourage you. Getting laid off is pretty much not your fault. That's one thing I also had to remember each time. This is not my fault. I don't have bad performance, just bad luck. And I would say that probably the third thing that was key for me, again, personally, and change is very personal, is that I gave myself space in between being let go and discovering or deciding what was next. And in that space, I gave myself the gift of time to learn. All of the things that I thought either weren't relevant for my job or that I hadn't really decided I had time for because I was over-identifying with my job and working way too much. And this is actually what led me to Flux. I'm recognizing, oh, wow, this is not only us, this is the Agile community. And everybody needs to know about this.
Thank you. There is another one, and I think it's following the first question that I asked. What do you think will the next role to replace Scrum Master and Agile Coach will be? Like the Agile is that part. I wanted to ask this question, like really awesome. Thank you for to the person that
Great
asked
question.
this one.
It's on all our minds.
Yeah. What do you think?
I've been talking to people, and I hear whispers of different things. One, I think we've all heard Agile Project Manager or Agile Product Manager, so Agile's being attached to another role, which might not be a bad thing. I've heard Engineering Manager, which is a role that already exists, but maybe we're able to bring our Agile mindset and principles into a more strict definition of engineering. What have you heard?
Well, it's what I've experienced. So I would say that we need to expand our mindset. In my experience, not knowing Agile before, I became an Agile consultant, the reason that I was pulled into an Agile consulting company was because I had all the people skills. I had the master's in organizational development, so I could look at the whole system that all the teams were in. I could understand the business perspective of why they structured all of these teams the way that they did. And I recognized that the principles and the skills that I was attracted to were the Agile principles and things that I was learning afterwards in my first Agile role as a Scrum Master, as a Lean coach. I was taught those things because they are skills. And I brought the developers, the QA testers who had become Agile coaches, all of those things around, all the skills and capabilities around people and structure and process from an organizational side. So I think we have to expand not only our skill set, but our belief that the world is changing. And maybe the things that the processes, for example, and the tools that we brought people, that they've learned them, that they're maturing in them, and that the things that they really need help with are on a bigger scale, are on more the people scale. So maybe that is HR. Maybe that is as a consultant outside, going in and being a boutique, a master of your own course and offering your own specialty.
Sounds like a lot of change. Okay, and continuing on this one, there's another question, and this one I particularly like. I would probably ask the same one. Do you feel you can be addicted to change? Honestly.
Yeah, of course there is that saying out there, change for change's sake. And I don't know, I would flip that and say, we humans are built for adapting. We can't help ourselves. I think that's why a lot of us here in this Agile space we're attracted to agility, because we are allowed to improve things. Isn't improvement a kind of change? So, yeah, I would say you can get addicted to change, but maybe I would even shift that wording and say, I'm addicted to learning. And maybe that learning came from a really crappy change.
Might be. There are lots of questions. I need to pick wisely and choose wisely. I will go with, I think, 3 more, not to bother you too long, so then people will have the time and opportunity to talk to you in person. So one is the most upvoted. Do you see the change towards more waterfall approaches lately? I personally have a feeling that I'm in such a bubble where lots of ideas points towards that.
So, having worked in the tech industry for probably 25 years, both in the tech side, project management, and also in the people side of tech companies, I would say that when there's a lot of uncertainty and people are reaching that level of change saturation, they want to go back to something that is certain. So maybe it could be in your current space, that is the truth. People are shifting back to waterfall. But I also know that we as humans, we do like to use what works, don't we? And sometimes the thing that was working is no longer working. Those skills that we had 5 years ago and we've used them consistently all of a sudden aren't working, and maybe they won't work so well anymore, because we are all part of a system. And in that bigger system, it could be that waterfall, for some teams, they've recognized that it is the most efficient and secure way of delivering. Maybe they didn't hopefully change their mindset that they can collaborate with people, that they can experiment and iterate. I know that is absolutely true that you can do that in waterfall. But maybe it's we shifting our mindset to saying, what tools had we let go of and thought were bad that we can adapt to our own mindset, to what we know in our own behaviors that works and that helps us get our work done in a collaborative and fun way. Hopefully that answered the question.
And last, because I don't want to keep you here on the stage, there are awesome questions here. I will share those with you later on. How to promote the changing environment in teams that don't want to change but need to due to the transformation, especially while working with German and Polish teams?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good question, by the way.
We definitely know about that.
Yeah.
I would say my secret is always to include the people who are being asked to change on the how are we going to change. Include their voices, get their ideas, and actually show them where and how those ideas and requests are being included or brought into how the change is happening. Because we as humans, we don't participate in change unless we see ourselves as part of it. Right. And I would say that's also true, and maybe something that more managers and leaders feel that they don't have the power to do is incorporate, because, oh gosh, if you give people too much information, they're going to take it and either misinterpret it or take it and run in a different direction. But mostly, we all want just to be included. So if your role, like ours did, includes you having to drive change, the best way is to take that word drive out and put the word include in. And we have even more tools in our tool belt to do that. And liberating structures, there's 33 of them right there. If you hadn't heard of liberating structures before, I don't know, come talk to us. So that's definitely something that I've used both on the leader level, senior leader level, and team level. Yeah.
And there is the last question I'm going to share with you, but it's going to be like a really wide one. So what's the biggest challenge in switching to Flux Mindset and then continuing on this? How you can make this work in organization, in big organizations? So there's like two parts question.
Start with yourself.
Yep.
So don't think I've got to bring this into the organization first. First, you have to start with yourself and pick one of the superpowers that resonates with you the most, and pick one small thing that you're going to practice so that you can see what it feels like and see how it actually is serving you. Yeah, because you as a role model, when your team, when people in the organization see you as someone who is staying healthy, is staying positive, is still enjoying their work, they're going to go, I want what they have. But just remember, it's developmental. This is something that happens over time. Sylvia and I have been doing this for a lifetime, and we're still amazed. Every time we thought, oh, I learned that, we realize we're learning it again, but at a different level. So this never ends. This is lifelong learning.
So you start with yourself, and you are like a living example to everyone outside. Yeah. That you are the change and you want to drive the change.
Yeah. So one thing in particular that we also know, that I know personally that works when you're talking about career resilience, and it's a concept I think many of you are probably familiar with, is creating a guild. So when you have a guild, right, people familiar with that terminology? Or hopefully, a few hands at least. In that guild, right, you become a member and you commit to bringing your skills, sharing what you're learning, and you get the same commitment from other people. And it becomes a very practical way, exponentially, to grow your, skill set, but also your, I'm losing the English word.
I won't help you with this.
No,
one.
Sorry.
Capacity?
Capacity, influence, your your whole bag of skills, and you can do it more rapidly because you're together and you're committed both to giving and getting help. And the guild can become a very professional part of the organization that's recognized, not just a community of practice where you're practicing new things, but you're really bringing things to the business where they're supporting the learning of a skill and the leveling up of something. And that can also happen with Flux.